Okay, so let's get going. Hi everyone, welcome to this online information session for the Communication Leadership Graduate Program at the University of Washington. My name is Valesca Frias. I am a cohort 21 student of the MCDM track, and I'm also currently working with ComLead as the Outreach and Event Coordinator. Within my role, I assist on recruitment and outreach efforts, as well as organizing current career and networking events. And before we start, I wanted to hand it over to Alex, Heather, and Alex to introduce themselves. Alex Stonehill, would you like to go first?
For sure. Hi, I'm Alex Stonehill. I'm one of the associate directors of the Communication Leadership Program. I, in the past, was a faculty member and also a student. I recently earned my master's degree from the program in communities and networks as well. And I'm excited to talk to you today. Heather?
Thanks, Alex. Hi, I'm Heather Werkel. I'm Assistant Director for Academic Services. So I am the academic advisor for students in the program and help our prospective students with the admissions process, and then current students meeting their degree requirements and moving through the program on the academic side. So happy to answer any questions today about admissions or the program curriculum. And Alex.
Hi, everyone. It's Alex Kuo, and I'm currently the student at Comm. I'm cohort 2022. So I got to Seattle very recently, just got here for 3 months. So I'm happy to be here today. So if you have any questions regarding the track, our student life, campus life, or professional development, feel free to reach out and we can talk more later.
I'm sorry, just realized I was muted. Thank you, everyone. And for today's session, we'll start by giving you a brief overview of our program and curriculum, as well as the community and career support that we provide. And then we'll move into answering all your questions. So feel free to type them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself to ask them directly when the time comes. And I also wanted to let you know that this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to ComLead YouTube channel so you can watch it later. Now I will hand it over to Alex again, who will be talking a little bit about our program and curriculum.
So yeah, I will just give a sort of overview of the program and curriculum as you think about questions that you might have, and you're welcome to type those in the chat anytime. So our program has been around for 2 decades now. We just celebrated last year our 20th anniversary. And the program started as a response to changes in the communication field in the mid to late 90s, and kind of through the rise of social media, shifts in legacy media and the democratization happening there, the rise of smartphone technology and apps. And basically the purpose of the program was to prepare students who are already thinking about communication for the way that that world was evolving, to allow them to be successful professional communicators. So the program has grown substantially in that time. And we now offer 3 degrees, a Master of Communication in Digital Media, which was the original degree that we started with. And then we added a Master of Communication in Communities and Networks about 8 or 9 years ago now. And then very recently, we added a larger 60-credit degree, the Master of Communication in Communication Leadership. So there are a number of different degree options for you to pursue. When we ask our current students and alumni what aspects of the communication leadership program they particularly value, they often mention the strength of the community between students and faculty and staff, as well as 1,000+ alumni at this point, as well as the dynamic and relevance of the program's curriculum. So those are 2 things that students often identify as keys to their success. So speaking to the curriculum, we're constantly working to update the curriculum. There are new classes almost every quarter. that are designed to respond to changes in the field. So it's not a static curriculum where the same class gets taught over and over again, but much more likely new classes are being added, and classes with the same course titles, the instructors are always sort of revising them and refining them, partly based on their experiences as professionals. So most of our instructors, faculty members are working professionals. So they're taking the experiences they're having out in the field at work and incorporating them into their course curriculum. There are 8 specializations in the program, which are content strategy and user experience, marketing and analytics, organizational and professional communication, community and leadership, storytelling, ethics and law, emergent technologies and trends, and communication and culture. So each of the classes fall under one or more of those specializations. Students can decide to focus on a particular specialization or take classes across different topics, but those specializations are meant to, within your degree emphasis, they're meant to, or which degree you're taking, they're meant to allow you to further focus what you want to be working on and kind of what career path you want to go down. That is not something you need to decide as you're applying, but it's just to give you an idea of what the kind of classes, the kind of skills you'll be learning are. So just to mention a few classes that we've added recently that might be of interest to you. These are all classes actually that I took in my time in the program. There's a class in multicultural marketing taught by somebody named Hannah Teresa Park. It's a fantastic class that gives you a sort of overview of the way that marketing works in general, but with a particular lens to reaching out to different kinds of communities and demographics in a way that's both inclusive and productive and profitable. Another class in psychology of user experience looks at the psychological principles of the way that we process information and how that can be applied to digital products particularly. So a super interesting class I really enjoyed. And then another one, communicating trust and credibility for emerging technologies, looks at like when new technologies such as AR or AI, any of these new things that we hear about coming up, thinking about how we can communicate to customers about those new technologies in a way that builds trust and is ethical. So that's just a few of the many new classes that we've added over the last few years. Last thing I want to say, because this is kind of central to what I do at Communication Leadership, a core value of the program is applied learning, which happens both inside of those classes. So oftentimes inside of a class, you'll be working with a real world client and doing work for them. And then also that happens beyond the classroom. So we're currently developing paid projects for next quarter. We usually have between 10 or 15 of these projects each quarter that students can apply for. Some of the stuff that I'm working on for next quarter right now is a project with King County Elections, helping to train their staff to be more effective public communicators, working with the UW School of Nursing to do a UX audit on their website and help them better market their program to fill the immense shortage of nursing staff there is currently in the United States and in Washington. A project with Microsoft, developing a video to highlight new products that they're developing around privacy for their customers, and a project with a local sustainable fashion brand called Prairie Underground to help them with their marketing. So that's just a little taste of the kinds of applied learning projects we do in this program, which I think are of value both for students to expand their portfolios, get some applied experience, also make some money in many cases to help offset their tuition. So feel free to ask me more questions about that stuff later, and I'll stop here and hand it over to Heather to talk about the specifics of the program.
Great, thanks, Alex. And I see we have some more people that have joined us. Welcome. We're just giving an intro of the program, and then we'll get into your questions. So some information that is Particularly important to international students who are considering our program is that all 3 of our degrees are designated as STEM degrees for OPT, which is the work approval after graduation. So I know that's exciting for a lot of international students considering the program, because that means that you can get up to 3 years of work approval after you graduate. So you can stay in the US, keep working for companies for 3 years after graduation. We're also a fee-based program. So this means that all students in the program pay the same tuition. We don't have a higher rate for non-residents. So everyone, whether they're a Washington resident or out of state or international, are all paying the exact same tuition amount, which we do try to keep as low as possible and very competitive with our other degrees that our students might be looking at. Full-time students will typically graduate in 5 quarters. So that's about 15 to 18 months, depending on if you take summer off or keep taking classes in summer, and either way is an option. So our students that started the program this fall, fall 22, will be graduating in winter 2024 or autumn 2023 if they choose to go straight through summer, to give you an idea of how long the program takes. You can also complete the program part-time. So we have a lot of students in the program, domestic students who might be working full-time, and we'll just take 1 class per quarter. So there is that flexibility for domestic students to either attend part-time or full-time, or even take quarters off if you need to. It has a lot of different ways you can move through the program. And part-time students will typically finish in 2.5 to 3 years, taking 1 class per quarter. So while you're studying, as I mentioned, about half of our students are working full-time, taking the program part-time, and then the other half are full-time students who are either not working or working part-time jobs or internships while they're in the program. All of the classes meet in the evenings or on weekends to allow for either a full-time job or that ability to do internships while you're in the program, so you have those weekdays free for work opportunities. There's a lot of student part-time jobs available on campus. Some of those are within the department. So Comm itself has a number of student hourly positions. Valeska, who's running our session today, is in our events coordinator position. We have a student who runs our like WeChat and Instagram, social media. We have other students who work with career events and social engagement. So there's a lot of opportunities to kind of apply what you're learning in the program about marketing and engagement for the program in a paid position while you're in it. And then across campus, there are also a number of student employment positions available. Alex heads up our Comm consultancy, which is another way that you can get experience and some pay while you're in the program, working with nonprofit organizations who have a project that they're looking for our students' help with. So that is an option as well. All of our programs are eligible for federal financial aid. So that's mostly student loans at the graduate level for domestic students. And then we also have a number of students who use GI Bill veteran benefits to pay for the program. So lots of different options for funding the program. Application-wise, our first priority deadline is February 1st. So if you are considering the program now, I would strongly recommend that you apply by February 1st for that priority deadline. About 90% of the spaces in the cohort are given during that priority deadline admissions process. So if you're considering now, don't wait. But we do also have a March 31st deadline for people who find us later, so they still have an opportunity to apply. Another note is there's no advantage to submitting early. We don't start looking at those applications until February 2nd. So if you're working on your application, and you can keep working on it through late January, keep tweaking it, because once you've submitted it, you can't change anything. So we want to make sure it's as up to date and current as possible for the review process. So don't worry about submitting now. Submit, January 30th, 31st. We get about half of them on February 1st, so that's fine too. One thing you do want to keep in mind, though, is that there are recommendations required. You'll want to designate your recommenders at least 2 weeks before that deadline, because they will get an email to complete the recommendation once you designate them, and it's due by February 1st. So you don't want to send that to them on February 1st. Then I get panicked emails from them saying, wait, I'm supposed to complete this today. I just heard about it. So make sure you designate your recommenders well in advance of the deadline so they have time to submit. And then if you're required to submit test scores to meet the English proficiency requirement, those also take about 2 weeks to arrive after you've requested them. So make sure that you request those by mid-January at the latest. So I will stop there with kind of the general program information and hand it back to Valeska for our Q&A part.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex and Heather, for that great overview of our program. We will now move on to the Q&A part of today's session. Again, please feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to, but otherwise you can send your questions in the chat and I will be happy to ask them for you. So yeah, let's begin. Okay, so Christine is asking, what are the average class sizes?
Yeah, I can jump in here. So most of our classes are capped at 20 students. Most of the electives, that will be the maximum for those. We do have a few classes that are larger. Some of our more popular classes might go up to 30 so that we can accommodate more students in those. And then we have some studio-based classes that are more like 15 or 16 students because they're a lot more hands-on project-based. So anywhere between 15 and 30 for most classes. There are the two cohort core classes that you take your first quarter in fall and then your first spring, so 501 and 502. Those are the entire entering cohort, so it's however many people are starting the program that year. And so this fall, I believe it was 112 students who started the program. So that's the one big class is 501 and 502 that are kind of the foundational overview, but the rest of the classes are in that 15 to 30 range.
Thanks, Heather.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I want to ask, what kind of qualities do the mission officers want to see from applicants' personal statements, like the relation of internship with the program, or like academic experience, or which part will be more focused? Thank you.
I can try to speak to that a little bit. So in terms of the personal statement specifically, certainly we're looking at the writing element of it to some extent, but that's not the core purpose. It's really more about storytelling and what the ways that you can express what you want to do with the degree, why you're pursuing it, the story that you can kind of tell us about that, and how that kind of builds from the experience that you already have as well. So certainly a heavy emphasis in our program is storytelling, and we certainly look for those statements and for the video verbal statement to do a little bit of that and give us a sense of your acumen for that, but also help us get to know who you are. So feel free to talk about your own experience, share your individuality, express yourself to be creative and original. And we are also going to get to look at your resume, so you don't need to feel like you just have to rehash every piece of experience that you have, but in certain things that you've done, challenges that you've faced, kind of specific things that you want to say more about, certainly a good place. The statements are a good place to emphasize that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I'm making notes. Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
And just to echo what Alex said, I think that's a really important point he brought up, is that remember that the committee is looking at your whole application, so don't waste any opportunity in it by repeating information they can find elsewhere. So you want to make sure that each application element is unique and doesn't repeat something that they can read in a different element, so that you're using like every chance to give us more of your story in the application.
Yeah. So our next question is, what is the acceptance rate?
All depends on how many applications we get, so it's kind of hard to predict in advance, but for the past few years, we've gotten anywhere between 350 and 400 total applications for the program. And then, like I said, our entering cohort has been just over 100, 112, 116 the past few years. That resulted from around 200 offers of admission, because we get a number of people who are applying to multiple programs. So not everyone that we say yes to says yes to us. So we offer admission to more people than we're expecting in the cohort. So that equates to around 40 to 50% admission rate. Again, the cohort size is kind of set in that we have a number that we're looking for, and so that percentage will depend on how many people apply in any given year.
Okay, so the next question is this degree eligible for the tuition exception program for UW and state employees?
Unfortunately not, because that only applies to state funded programs, and we're not state funded. We're what's called a fee-based program. So UW has two different kinds of programs. One, some receive state funding and those are eligible for the state tuition waiver, and others are fee-based, so they're entirely funded by student tuition, so they're not eligible for the fee waiver. And all of our degrees are fee-based degrees, so sadly, no.
Thanks, Heather. Next question is, can international students waive the TOEFL requirement if they receive their undergrad degree in the US?
I'm glad this question came up, because there seems to be there's often confusion around this. So the UW Graduate School does not have a TOEFL requirement. They have an English proficiency requirement, and there's multiple ways to meet that requirement. So I'm putting in the chat now that policy. One of the ways you can meet that is through TOEFL scores or IELTS scores. One of the ways you can meet that is through a US bachelor's degree. You can also meet it through a bachelor's degree from a number of other countries. So there's multiple ways to meet that requirement, and test scores are just one option. So as long as you meet the requirement through one of those methods, then you're good. That's all you need to do. So there isn't a test score requirement. There's just that English proficiency requirement that can be met in many ways.
Great. So Jennifer was asked, she joined a little late. She was asking if we already cover what is involved in each of the 3 tracks. And Jennifer, I just wanted to let you know that the session is being recorded and it's going to be uploaded to YouTube later. But I don't know if Alex wants to maybe give another brief.
Yeah, I don't think I really explained it very well anyhow, so I just kind of glossed over that part. So yeah, let's dig into it, and maybe Heather, you can help me too. But so there are 3 degrees. The Master of Communication and Communities and Networks degree is focused on communication processes and strategies for engagement with the constituencies. So we often think of this as like the degree about who you're communicating to, who those people are. It emphasizes inclusion, ethics, organizational identity, and social impact. The digital media degree is more about the what you're communicating. So understanding the fast changing world of online content and platforms, focusing on innovation, entrepreneurship, storytelling, and audience-centered approaches to digital media. Those are the 2 45 credit degrees. Kind of more generally speaking, the digital media degree carries a lot of the user experience design classes, the digital storytelling classes, and communities and networks degree carries more of the organizational communication classes, community outreach, kind of more network influence stuff. And then the MCCL degree, the Master of Communication and Communication Leadership, is a longer 60 credit degree, which in some ways combines the 2, but is also designed to help people who are starting in their careers or kind of repivoting their careers, gain an understanding of the skills, methods, and techniques that today's communication professionals use to tell impactful stories, build community, and affect change. So Heather, I don't know if there's more you want to add there about the way that students sort of differentiate between the degrees and choose which one to pursue. I do think it's worth saying that there are a number of classes that are cross-listed across the degrees. And I don't think currently, other than capstone and internship, there are not MCCL specific classes that are only listed for the MCCL degree. So in some ways that could be considered a combination of the 2 others.
Yeah, I would agree. And that one way, if you're looking at one of the 45 credit degrees, the MCDM or MCCN, one way I recommend that students choose between them is to look at our classes that are being offered. So on our website, you can go to our classes page, and and see, there's some classes that'll be designated MCDM elective, some will say MCCN elective, so those are within each of those degrees. And if you just kind of read through and keep track of which classes are most interesting to you, they'll probably fall more in one degree or the other. And so that's the degree you should apply to, because you'll be taking the majority of your classes within that degree if you apply to that one. So that can be a good way to kind of figure out which one might be the better fit, is just look at the actual classes that you'll be taking.
Yeah, for sure. I have a friend who started as MCCN, and then she basically took most of MCDN classes, so she ended up being MCDM. So yeah, definitely look into the classes and see which one are more appealing to you. Next question is, for out-of-state students, is there on-campus housing or off-campus?
There is excellent grad student housing. I'll put the link in the chat here. So the grad student housing at UW, like honestly, it's better than some apartments I've lived in Seattle. Like they're really nice. And the nice thing about it is that it's, you know, right next to campus, so it's really easy to get to your classes. But also they combine everything in one payment, so you don't have to pay separate bills for your rent, your utilities, your, you know, internet, cable, all of that. It's all just one payment, so it makes it a little simpler when you're already, you know, taking classes and dealing with all the academic side, to just be able to pay that one bill and to cover your housing. So check out that link for the different options for grad students, and that application will usually open the first week of April. So right after our priority offers have gone out for priority admission. So if you are considering living on campus, applying by that February 1st deadline, we'll make sure that you've heard whether you're admitted or not before the housing application opens too. So that's another advantage.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. So next question is, do students have opportunities to work with real world clients in projects?
Yeah, certainly. I talked about that a little bit up top. That's definitely a core value of our program. I would say many, if not most classes involve real world clients, and that can happen in a number of ways. There are often clients that are coming in and essentially, like, you know, acting as the client, speaking to their challenges up front, and then the students are working to apply whatever's happening in the class, whatever the topic of the class is, to those client organizations. So for instance, we just had a class that was a marketing strategy class taught by Whitney Keys, and she had 4 clients, including a couple of fashion brands, a thing called Vanishing Seattle, that's like an Instagram account that talks about like changing businesses and development in Seattle, and I'm forgetting what the other one was. So often faculty will bring in clients for their classes and we'll help them to find those. Then we have a number of classes that are practicum classes where it's specifically about working with a client, and those can be in anything from you know, I'm trying to think of some of these examples that we've had in the past. UX design, we had a practicum class where we built the chatbot that is on the, or scoped the building of the chatbot that is on the CommLead website. So kind of more applied learning stuff. And then finally, beyond classes, there are a number of opportunities for students to work with nonprofit and small business clients with their communication challenges through our consultancy program, which you can check out on the website as well. So yes, big area of emphasis for us for sure. Ideally, we want our students to be leaving both with the confidence that they can apply the things that they're learning out in the real world, the confidence that they can manage a client relationship, and also, you know, a portfolio that shows those capabilities.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So the next question, I'm not sure I completely understand. It says, are there congruent degree opportunities?
Yeah, so the UW Graduate School does allow students to complete degrees from 2 different departments at the same time. So that's called an informal concurrent degree, is what they call that, and basically allows you to double count some of the credits towards both degrees. You still have to apply to each program separately. You have to be admitted separately, and you can only earn 2 degrees from different departments. So for example, you can't earn 2 of the Comm Lead degrees. That's not allowed. So only apply to one of our degrees because you can only earn one of our degrees. You can switch, as Valeska said, once you're in the program. If you decide you were in the wrong track, you can switch to a different one, but you can only apply to one degree and earn that one degree from our department. But we have had a couple of students earn, for example, like the MBA from the Foster School of Business, maybe along with one of our degrees, or students do, a master's degree from some other department along with ours. So that is a possibility. You just have to go through the separate admissions process for each one still.
Thanks, Heather. So the next one is, could you please provide us the link for the declarations of funds form for international students?
I just put that in the chat. I believe you're referring to the financial ability requirement for the I-20. So that's in there.
Yeah, that sounds like that. Thanks, Heather. Okay, next one is, I am completing my bachelor's in human development, but have gained a new interest in digital media. Do you think that someone from a human development background would be successful in this program?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I would say we have students coming in from a broad range of different fields and undergraduate majors, everything from architecture to museology to biology. Leska, I'm trying to remember what did you study as an undergrad? It wasn't
Architecture.
Yeah, yours was architecture. Okay, yeah. So definitely there, that's where I was getting that from. So there are a lot, you don't have to have studied communication or media as an undergrad to fit in. In terms of human development in particular, especially so, I'm not sure what exactly is meant by that, but my assumption is it's something in the kind of like public health, development, civics sphere, and certainly we work with a lot of clients on projects in that field. There's a lot of demand in that field for help with the communication parts of what they do. So absolutely, I think that would position you well. Coming in, I think one of the best things about our classroom environment is that the student body is coming from so many different backgrounds. So you're going to be enriched not just by what the faculty member knows or says or is teaching, but also what your fellow students have experienced in their previous careers or in their undergraduate studies. So absolutely, that's another thing pointed towards applications as well. Definitely don't play that stuff down. Talk about what you've done, even if it doesn't seem like it directly applies, because what we're looking for is a diverse cohort that has a lot of complementary experiences who are going to be able to learn from each other, not just from us.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely one of the most interesting things about the program and your cohort, when you kind of like learn how different like everyone's background is. And that's really interesting.
Yeah. Valeska, I think I can add some point to
Yeah,
this.
for sure.
Because I'm from Taiwan, and one of my friends from Taiwan, also in a cohort, she has a background as physical therapist, and I think your background is not the main point of we considering whether you're eligible, or it's more like your emphasis on telling a story, because that's what we need in this world. So if you have the desire to tell a story, and it will be always nice to have the background and use that as the channels and the media to impact the society, the community.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.
No problem.
So next question is, are you able to take different classes from the different tracks?
Yes, so if you're in the MCCL degree, that's our longer 60 credit degree, the entire curriculum is open to you. So there's no MCCL specific, you can take any of the classes for that. If you're in the MCDM or MCCN, you can take up to 10 credits outside of your degree. So that lets you take a couple of classes from the other degree. So for example, an MCDM student could take up to 10 credits of classes that are designated MCCN electives. And within that 10, you're also allowed to take up to 5 credits completely outside of the program. So we've had students take a class from, many other UW departments for that opportunity as well.
Yeah. So next question is there a diverse group of students?
Yeah, certainly. So I'd be curious to hear Alex and Valeska reflect on the experience of that inside of classes. But I'm going to put the link to the page on the website that talks about some of the demographics of this student body. There is a pretty broad range in terms of the age or the level of experience in the students. These numbers, I think, are last year's numbers, so they're not the current cohort, but it hasn't changed too much. So a little more than half of the students have finished their undergraduate program in the past 5 years, but another 20% plus have done so in between 5 and 9 years ago, and then 20% more than 10 years ago. So there's a broad age range. Gender dynamics, it skews more towards women, I think, consistently, but there is some diversity there. And then we have a big international presence. I think Heather usually is keeping tabs on this, but I think typically there's students from between 15 and 20 different countries in the program at any given time. Obviously a big number of domestic students from the United States, but also from China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, a lot of students from India, and then from all parts of the rest of the world as well, Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, Europe, many other places. And then inside of the kind of domestic diversity, you can see the numbers on that page as well, but there's quite a bit of diversity there as well. And yeah, I guess, how is that operationalized, or what's the experience of that like for Valeska and Alex's students?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm from Panama and Alex is from Taiwan, so you have diversity right here, right? And yeah, definitely, like when it comes to nationalities and ages, it's really diverse. I can tell you, I just had a video storytelling class and we had a really diverse group of people. We had people who were in their late 50s, who were just were really interested in learning about video, and they were creating videos for the companies they were working with right now. And then we have people who just graduated from their bachelor's and were kind of trying to figure out if video is what they wanted to do with their careers. So I feel like that diversity and those different experiences and perspectives is, again, one of the best things about the program, because you get to learn so much from people who are in different stages of life and of their careers than you are, and then also from different backgrounds, right, and other cultures and other ideas. So yeah, I would say definitely the program has it's really amazing in that sense, very diverse. And I don't know if Alex wants to add.
Yeah, like because Valeska covered about diversity, and I feel like because we have so many students from abroad, and it kind of form its own community because we really want to make a success, do our best and stay and get used to the culture here and settle down. So I feel like this have a strong feeling that you might not necessarily get from a lot of students if that they're all from Seattle originally. So that's one thing I'd appreciate a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next question is, are classes mostly in person? And I think this next quarter they will be.
Yeah, so we had, during the pandemic, we did offer a lot of online classes as a temporary measure so if you're looking back at past quarters, you might have seen a number of classes that were online. That was just due to the pandemic. It's not how our program normally operates. And so now, as of this fall, we do have maybe 1 to 3 online classes per quarter, based on that faculty's situation, and they might need to teach online. But the majority of the classes are in person. They might have a few sessions that it might be kind of hybrid. So there's a couple of sessions that are remote for various reasons. A lot of our faculty are working professionals. So if they have to go on a business trip mid-quarter, they might have to teach that class remotely because they're not in the area. but most classes are meeting on the Seattle campus, most of them within the communications building or a couple of other buildings on campus like Denny Hall that we tend to offer a lot of classes in there. I did notice we missed one from Christine, so I just wanted to circle back to that really quick. On if we're accepted, can we defer for a year? Yes, we are happy to offer admissions deferrals. So if you're admitted, you can defer for 1 year. And you can only defer one time for 1 year. So that would be, so if you're admitted for autumn 2023, you can ask to defer to autumn 2024. But then if you decide that year, you still need to wait, you can't defer again, you would have to apply again at that point. So, but we're happy to offer that one deferral.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I think it's worth saying, re-emphasizing the part-time option as well. Certainly, you know, we have students who maybe are not ready to dive 100% into full-time graduate school, either for financial reasons or other personal reasons or job reasons. That's not necessarily the reason to defer. You know, there might be good reasons to defer, but also it might be make a lot of sense to just kind of go slowly through the program. I think students who take their time in completing the program get more out of it, honestly, in the long term, because they're just able to interact with more other students, choose their classes more carefully, invest deeply in each class. So that's certainly an option as well. I think there's an outward limit of how long you can take to complete the program. That is, what is it, like 7 years, has there? It's
6 years, and
6
it would
years,
be
yeah.
really hard to take that long because it's basically 9 classes. So it's 2 years, just over 2 years if you go straight through. So you can basically take up to 4 years off, you know, and still meet the grad school requirement. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks, Heather. And I'm sorry, Christine, that I didn't see your question. So I'm gonna skip over Letty's question because it's about the average age, and I think we already covered a little bit about that. And you can also click the link that we share, and you can see like the overview of the students. And then the next one would be, are there any prerequisites for the program? And again, we already talked a little bit about this, and you can definitely check the requisites for the international students. But I don't know if Heather wants to add something else here.
Yeah, I was just going to put the link. So our how to apply page has the basically you just have to meet the graduate school's minimum admission requirements. That's the only prerequisite. So we're not expecting any major, any specific classes. As long as you meet the graduate school's requirements to be eligible to apply for any UW grad degree, which includes an eligible degree, GPA, and English proficiency, then you're eligible to apply to our degree. So we don't have any extra requirements.
Okay, yeah. Next one is, since my undergraduate school doesn't use letter grade system, how would that impact my application? Should I ask for official explanation now or wait till contacted by UW?
So in the application, there's a GPA question and it asks, you know, you have to compute your GPA, or it has an option for you to say, my school didn't award grades. So there's a couple of schools in the area, like Evergreen College gives narrative evaluations. I know I just ran into a student from Hampshire College, which does the same thing. So they're not given grades. They're just given like an essay on how they did. And so the application accounts for that. You just check that box. And then that's all you need to do. There's nothing else required, because that will also show on the transcript that you upload what that school's system is. Now, if you did get grades, whether they're points, numeric, letter, it doesn't matter what the grading system is, but if you were actually graded, then you do need to convert that to the 4.0 scale in your application. And on that question in the application, there's a help file that gives you some calculators and lots of information on how to do that. So whatever grading system was used, if you did receive some kind of grade, then we do need to know your GPA. But if your school just gave narrative evaluations, then just check the box that says my school didn't give grades.
Got it. So the next one is, do you find that most students stay in Seattle area for employment after graduating? I think it depends.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to, I mean, a lot of students get jobs in this area, but some go, you know, elsewhere. We have students working, all over the country and all over the world. So it depends on what you want to do. So if you want to stay in Seattle, we can certainly have supports to help you find a position. But we have students choose to do, a variety of things after they finish.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the value of the alumni and community network of the program, I would say that's centered in Seattle, but it does certainly spread around the country and around the world. But we have many alumni who are working at companies here in Seattle, and obviously there are a lot of robust companies and job opportunities here as well. So, but I'm sure it's a mix of where people actually end up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mayan. I have a follow-up question on that. What is the most common career path that your students take? I joined a bit late because I had some trouble with the link. So I don't know if you talked about it already, but yeah, or if there is any common career path.
Yeah, I would say it can be pretty diverse. It's certainly not like there's one job title that most of the students end up with because the curriculum of the program is diverse. So we have a lot of students who go into, UX design, UX writing. We have a lot of students who go into storytelling and production. We have a lot of students who go into, internal communications roles, marketing roles. The best way to look at that might be if you go on LinkedIn and search for UW Communication Leadership and then search for people, then you'll just find a lot of people who have listed the degrees, so essentially a bunch of alumni, and you'll see that their job titles will be very broad ranging, but certainly that would give you more of a sense of kind of like the specifics of what jobs people end up in. And yeah, in terms of fields, they can range from certainly big tech companies. We have a lot of alumni at Microsoft and Amazon and Meta and places like that, but also a lot in local government organizations, nonprofit organizations, startups, small organizations, large global ones as well.
And I put the link in the chat to our 2021 cohorts career outcomes, which shows you, what fields, kind of job titles as examples, and then companies that students from that cohort ended up working in. So that also gives you a good overview of where, those recent graduates are.
Thank you.
Okay. Gonna move on to the next one are there any qualities, classes, or skill sets that would help give us a leg up in the application process?
I think Alex spoke to, as a reviewer, spoke to this a little bit earlier. So I think I would just add that, being clear about why you're wanting to do this degree and what you're going to get out of it. What are your career goals? So I think the leg up is not necessarily anything you've done, but how you articulate why you're applying to this degree. Because it becomes really obvious when someone has no idea why they're applying and they're just wanting to go to grad school, or they just want to live in Seattle, or they just love Husky football, or, so I think that ability to articulate, this is what I want to do. I am passionate about this field, and this is why this degree specifically is going to help me do what I want to do. So telling that story, as Alex said earlier, is going to be way more important than anything you've done on your resume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So then the next one is there a required format for the resume? I say UW has its own style of resume. Should we follow that? I don't think we have to. I remember I use my own format.
Yeah, there's no specific format. Definitely, it's nice to, as we said before, make sure that it's not completely redundant with everything else that you've done in your application. But the resume is kind of a good place to list the broad range of your experience. In terms of format, make it look nice and professional, and that's mostly what we'll be looking for. It's not a big area of emphasis, but certainly I've seen some applications where the resume was just like sort of poorly formatted, and that said something, but it's certainly not a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think that if you just like, if you Google like standard resume like formats, you should be fine. And then the next one is, how available are faculty to students? Are advisors assigned? I can give you my experience. I feel that faculty are really, really open to help you and support you throughout your whole Comm journey. At least in my experience, all of the professors that I have, they have been like really helpful and really open to you, like emailing them if you have a question. If you want like one-on-one time, they often have like their calendars available, so you can make an appointment with them. So in my personal opinion and experience, they are 100% there for you to help you succeed in Comm and give you advice in anything that you may need. I don't think we have advisors assigned, but we do have Heather who kind of helps, right?
Yeah, so I am the advisor. So because CommLead is a professional program and not an academic research program, you don't have a faculty advisor, you have a staff advisor, and that's me. So I am the academic advisor for all students in the program. So the person to go to with any of your questions for that. And then the faculty, as Valeska said, are also happy to talk with you about career paths or their specific subject matter, their company they work at, any of that.
Yeah, and I have friends who are at another universities, like getting another master's degree, and I've heard how difficult it is for them to sometimes like even like talk to their professors, to the faculty, and I'm like, I have never had that issue here. I feel like they are super supportive, super helpful. We also have like the first Friday events, and you can see faculty there sometimes, and they are like, they will talk to you and engage with you. So I feel like, yeah, definitely very supportive.
Yeah, I think most of our faculty teach in the program in part because they like interacting with students. So it's not usually something they're trying to avoid. It's usually part of the reason that they're there, because they have other things that they're doing professionally. They might be overwhelmed by those other things, but it's not a bunch of teaching and interacting with students. Usually that's kind of probably the highlight of their week, is getting to come to class and talk to you outside of class.
Yeah. Oh, and then Letty's asking, what are the first Friday events? Yeah, so every first Friday of every month, we have like a company. Right now we're doing it online. We're still doing it on Zoom because most companies are still like either remote or hybrid, but a company would come and they will basically give like a talk and talk a little bit about their company and the kind of people they're hiring and the open positions that they have. And if they're like alumni who are working at those companies, they are usually there on the Zoom call, and then the students get the chance to talk to them, to interact with them, to ask them questions, and kind of like if they want to, they can apply to the jobs that they're offering, basically, like they have open. And then after the online event, that it's usually at noon, then we have the first and the last first Friday of each quarter, we usually have an in-person happy hour. And yeah, that everyone is invited, like all students, faculty, and staff. So yeah, it's basically an opportunity to network and get to know each other and interact in person. So yeah, those are first Fridays. Let me see. Yeah, of course, you're welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. You're welcome. And yeah, please feel free to, as Heather already sent the email, the Comm Lead email, please feel free to send follow-up questions. You can also email me. You can find my email on the emails that you already received from Evan Bryan. You can also find my email on the website, but I'm still gonna type it in here just in case you have any more questions later. I'll be happy to help. But yeah, other than that, thank you everyone. Again, this is being recorded. You will receive a follow-up email with the link. And we hope to see all of your applications.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.